think twice, sure to do right by me. Before she gets to saying goodbye, sure to think twice, sure to do right by me. I think I'm gonna be sad, I think it's today, yeah. The girl that's driving me mad is going away, yeah. Ah, she's got a ticket to ride, she's got a ticket to ride, she's got a ticket to ride, but she don't care. I don't know why she's riding so high, sure to think twice, sure to do right by me. Before she gets to saying goodbye, sure to think twice, sure to do right by me. Said that living with me was bringing her down, yeah. She would never be free when I was around. Ah, she's got a ticket to ride, she's got a ticket to ride, she's got a ticket to ride, but she don't care. My baby 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 don't care. Long as I remember, the rain been coming down, clouds of mist drip pouring, confusion on the ground. Could be through the ages, trying to find the sun, and I wonder, still I wonder, who'll stop the rain. I went down Virginia, seeking shelter from the storm. Caught up in the fable, I watched the tower grow. 5-year plans, a new deal, wrapped in golden chains. And I wonder, still I wonder, who'll stop the rain. Heard the singers playing, how we cheered for more. Crowd had rushed together, trying to keep warm. Still the rain kept pouring, falling on my ears. And I wonder, still I wonder, who'll stop the rain. I'm sailing home again, across the sea. I am sailing stormy waters my heart you will remain forever young, forever young, forever young, forever young, and when you finally fly away, I'll be hoping that I served you well. For all the wisdom of a lifetime, no one can ever tell. But whatever road you choose, I'm right behind you, win or lose. Forever young, forever young, forever young, forever young, forever young,
Don't think of him as gone away. His journey has just begun. Life holds so many facets. This earth is only one. Just think of him as resting from the sickness and the tears, in a place of warmth and comfort where there are no days or years. Think how he must be wishing that we could know today how nothing but our sadness can really pass away. And think of him as living in the hearts of those he touched. For nothing loved is ever lost, and he was loved so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian definitely was loved so very much. And so we come together this morning in remembrance of this very special man, Brian Frederick Smith, a stoic, self-taught, lifelong learner who worked hard for his entire life and took great pleasure from his family, his community, and of course from you, his friends. On behalf of his loving family, Paul and Michelle, Scott, Adrian and Cherie, Karen and Shane, Noel and Shelley and their families, I welcome you and thank you for being here with them this morning to celebrate Brian's life and to say goodbye to him in a loving and meaningful way, in the way that he would want, a celebration with not too much fuss. I also welcome all those who are viewing online who are unable to be with us, especially his grandson, Lockie. You are his closest family and friends. You are all here today because you have one important thing in common. Your lives have been touched by the good fortune of having known the jack of all trades, master of none, Brian. Following our service this morning, our chapel is yours to stay together, enjoy light refreshments, share your stories, and support one another. This morning is an opportunity to share memories of the life and personality that was Brian, a kind and charismatic man who loved people and loved to help others in any way he could. A practical and resilient man, Brian lived by the values of fairness, justice, and acceptance of all. His love of cars, especially Fiats, and his service to the community through the local Lions Club and Probus Club meant he was valued by his many friends and acquaintances. A down-to-earth man with no airs or graces. What you saw was what you got with Brian. Methodical and meticulous in his work, his skills were highly sought and his friendship cherished. But today it is inevitable that feelings of sadness and pain surround us. This is natural, and these emotions need to run their course. It is important to remember that grief is the final act of love we can offer to those who touched our hearts deeply. It is the silent tribute, the unspoken testament to the bond we shared. In every tear shed, in every ache felt, there is love, raw, unfiltered, and enduring. Grief is not just sorrow, it is the echo of devotion, a reflection of how profoundly someone mattered. It is the weight of love with nowhere else to go, a reminder that even in absence, Brian's presence remains woven into the very fabric of who we are. The only cure for grief is to grieve. Brian's eulogy has been lovingly crafted by his brother Ken and children Karen and Adrian, and I invite them to come forward now to share it with you.
Good morning, one and all. This is probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Brian was born on the 27th of September 45, and what I'm going to try and share with you is memories of Brian. In Burnie, I've only got one real sharp memory, and that was that one day Mum went down shopping in Burnie, and we had to walk back up the hill to Montello. Now, you all know what Burnie's like with its hills. Mother was pushing pram. I was about 2.5 and I was walking, and this little bloke that was going to take over from me was in the pram. After that, in about 1945, we went to Lower Mount Hicks, and I've only got two real fond memories there. One, I believe, that we had a sister arrive, and Mum was looking after the sister and Dad was looking after us on the farm, on the grandfather's farm, and he put us on the shed so that we could be safe. Again, I was looking after the next in line, watching the bull have its horns taken off. So that must have been quite interesting for Brian and myself. And the next memory, the only other memory I had, was we had an international truck, a ute, with a tray on it. And this particular day we had to go to Burnie, and again there was Mum and Dad in the truck with the sister, and on the back he had a big, I'd call it a big box, and in the big box was myself and Brian. And my job was to make sure, as a 5-year-old, that this little 2.5-year-old didn't get out. So I kind of thought that was a bit like a alcoholic looking after a brewery. And I just don't think that today that the police would be very happy about that sort of situation. In 1949, on the death of our grandfather, we went to Underwood, where Brian actually and I, for the first couple of years, we were just nothing much happened. But then Brian sort of started to be coming into his own, and we used to ride our bikes in Underwood. This was 1949, but in the mid-50s. We used to ride our bikes endlessly, and Brian was always my constant companion. But Brian had, right from that stage of the game, he had this thing for speed, and you're going to hear a bit about that today, the speed. He built himself a billy cart, and Brian's craftsmanship was quite legendary. He built the best billy cart that there was. Our place in Underwood was one side of the road was quite flat, the other side was a big hill, a huge hill, with a track coming around the side to normal people would go down because it was a bit more less of a gradient, but not Brian. Brian had this beautiful billy cart, he's got to come straight down the hill. And his reasoning was that if I go straight down the hill and I come to this track, I'm going to stop. But Brian failed in that badly because he came down the hill, hit the track, left into the air, kept on going down the hill until he struck a wattle tree. And that was the end of the billy cart, but never stopped his need for speed. Engineering. Brian, with me, was instrumental in building a dam. It was probably 3 or 4 metres high, and a big job for a couple of teenagers. And that dam still stands today. I saw it back in 2014 when I was over here, and so that was an engineering feat that I'd say that he was good in building. His other thing that I didn't know about was his cooking ability. We got ourselves some kangaroo meat, and Mum and Dad and Alan and Lynette were away. She's probably in town in Launceston picking up Dad. So Brian and I were home. We got some kangaroo meat. So Brian says, "Oh well, we'll make mince patties out of it. So when the folks come home, we'll have some food for them." So Brian does the cooking, and he makes the kangaroo patties. He tastes one, I taste one. He tastes two, I taste two, and so on. You get the story. And by the time Mum came home, all she had was a pan to wash up and dirty dishes and no patties and 2 fat boys. Another little one that I'm going to blame Brian on because he's not here to defend himself. We had a sandpit, a nice big sandpit. We used to play up there in the sandpit. And anyway, this particular day we decided that there's a little hill in the little sandpit with the grass on it. So we thought, well, that's a good idea. We'll have in our little thing that we've got, we'll have a little fire. So Brian thought to himself, we can't go down. I can't go down and get the matches, and he can't go and get the matches. So Brian decided, well, we'll get Lynette to get the matches because she won't get in trouble. So she got the matches. We went a little hill, went a bit further, and Underwood had the biggest grass fire I'd ever seen. And trying to convince Mum on a nice clear day with a bit of wind that it was a lightning strike, that didn't work either. Brian, I wasn't there to help. I don't know, but we got the telephone on, and we needed a pole to put the telephone line up. And somehow or another, Brian went up to right up the bush, picked out a pole, got it down to the road, rolled it across this busy road and to the house, and they put this up, and we ended up being, our phone number was Lilydale 85 as a consequence of Brian's activities. Like that ant that can cart twice its weight. He learnt to drive. We used to go to Moorelia, to our grandfather's place on the other side, and we both learned to drive on a tractor, an old Farm All-H tractor. I was a bit put out because I learned to drive on that, and Brian came along and said, I want to do that too. and I wasn't keen on that idea. I thought it was my domain. So that's, Brian's always been there. He's always been there for me. He's always been there with me. And even now, he's always to go to Scots, he'd call and see me and have a nice long conversation and did a few little jobs. After that, about 1961, Brian went to Hobart. He got a cadetship for I think it was cadetship or an apprenticeship in the Hydroelectric Commission, and I went down shortly after 1964, and Brian came and stayed and lived with us for about 2 or 3 years, and we had just a great relationship. But one of the things that I'd like to finish up with is Brian had a FJ Holden. Now this car was built for speed. It absolutely had everything going for it, the full works, and he accidentally wrote it off. But lucky for him that he had done the work, because it didn't roll over, it just spun around and hit a car. So what he did then is he said, he had this bright idea. He'd build a kit car. And I thought this was quite ingenious, build a kit car. And I thought this will be good because he's a perfectionist. So him and his mate went to Sydney and they bought the meanest, oldest looking FX Holden I've ever seen. It was so bad that the floor was so riddled with holes that going back to Hobart one day there, we were sitting in the thing and all the mist was coming up inside, and I said to Brian, I said, you better put your wipers on, mate, because we can't see. He said, that's not outside. He said, that's inside. He said, it's coming through the floor. I kept my feet up in the air for the rest of the trip. Anyway, to finish up, he came back all the way down with the Empress of Australia to Hobart with a Bolwell kit firmly attached to the roof. And how they'd got away with getting it to the boat on both ends, I don't know. But that was Brian. Brian did not know any boundaries. If Brian wanted to do something, he did it. And I'm so proud of the fact that Brian was my brother.
Our dad wanted to say a few words on his behalf. His clear instructions was teach some people, say some things about him so people learnt something new, and keep it light was the instructions, so hopefully that's what will come out of this. A bit about our dad: a dedicated father, a loyal husband and a proud grandfather, and he was loved by all. A genuine person with an incredibly hard worker in every job or role he took on. He was always very supportive and loving. He loved teaching and explaining the how and the why, and probably got too caught up in explaining the how and the why at times. He was a simple man, always happy with what he had. He never suffered from envy or feel the need to keep up with anybody else. He appreciated the simple things in life, and he never wanted to be the centre of attention. He was never a complainer and rarely, if ever, had a bad word to say about anybody, and if it was, it wasn't much.
But on saying that, in Dad's last couple of weeks, I, myself, started to hear some words that I've never ever heard come out of my dad's mouth. And I said to him, Dad, in my whole 51 years of life, I've never heard you say that. And he said, you might hear a few more. But he showed some rare impatience and frustration, but even then, that was still never in a mean or nasty way.
He was a humble man, and he always put others first, and I'm sure a lot of people in this room would have benefited from that, putting others first. He was never a big talker or felt the need to say more than he needed, and he always lived by his strong personal values. He was a very simple man with very simple needs. We always said as long as he had several flannelette shirts, 3 pairs of blue jeans, and a couple of his nice, what he called his nice shirts in the cupboard, he was happy. He was very devoted to flannelette shirts, it'd be fair to say. He'd wear them 365 days a year. You'd be working with him in the middle of summer and he'd have a flannelette shirt on. You'd be working with him in the middle of winter and he'd have the same flannelette shirt on. He was a central force in our family and was certainly the biggest influence on all of us. He encouraged us, but he never forced us to follow any path. He worked full time. He still had to, largely, he was the chief cook of the household. He prided himself on his Sunday roasts, which were pretty special, I think everyone would attest. And no one ever went hungry when Dad was in charge of the cooking. He never changed, and we never wanted him to. Excuse me. We don't want to dwell on his illness, but it's worth saying that he approached his cancer diagnosis the same way he approached everything in life. It is what it is. And as always, his first thoughts were of the impact that it was going to have on his family and his clients, always putting others' needs before his own. I've had a good life, he reassured us so many times over the last few months. It's a bit about Dad, I guess, as Kim mentioned, his working life largely defined who he was, and at the end of the day, he worked his whole life and worked really hard. His working life was split into, there's two distinct periods. He was a hydro man for 35 years and then self-employed as a handyman for 25 years. He started as a cadet engineer at the hydro, and he said that period as a cadet played a big role in defining him being the handyman as well. I guess being a large organisation, one of the things he was saying about was how they sent him to various parts of the business to learn all about the business, and he got to have a go at welding, he got to have a go at construction or working in the machine shop. So that's all these skills he learned in those early days he'd applied later on in life in his next phase. I guess it was also working at the hydro where he met a young woman named Marilyn, who was a typist in the typing pool, and he went on to marry for 1967, and we all know what happened there. Dad moved through the ranks at the hydro, and he ultimately moved his family to Burnie in 1978 after getting a promotion to a district engineering role. It was a pretty big move for a family of 4 kids under the age of 10 years of old. Mum was pretty keen to get us all up here in time for a school term, so we all ended up moving up here and living in a caravan, 4 kids and a mother and a father, in a caravan in an annex out at Cooey Caravan Park. And at the same time, they decided they'd build a brand new home, which would become his house for the next 47 years. At that time, Dad was still based out of Hobart, so he was commuting between Hobart and Burnie. And he was living with Mum's parents at the time. And, I guess being Dad is what he always was, he'd never take anything for granted. In return for those board and lodgings at his in-laws' place, he ended up rewiring the house as sort of a thank you gift for that. So this all started from a very young age. Dad loved his time at the hydro, and he made many friends and was well respected by his colleagues. Even recently, we were at a visit to the emergency department of the hospital, and just out of the blue, a gentleman in a wheelchair as well, like Dad, wheeled himself over and introduced himself, and hadn't seen Dad for 25 years, but it turns out they both worked at the hydro, and he went out of his way specifically to say g'day to Dad and reminisce about the days at the hydro, and which was really sweet of the guy. And I saw him again later on, and he just sort of said, "He's a good man, your Dad, really good to work with." So without being prompted, so it was just to think 25 years after working with someone that they go out of that way, like that was amazing. Hydro went through many changes towards the end as they moved from one organisation to 3 separate businesses. There was a number of years where there was a number of changes and restructures. So at 55, Dad took the opportunity to take a redundancy. It was a big unknown for him, and he was a bit worried at the time, but never let it show. I guess the job market at the time was pretty difficult for a man of his age, and he didn't know what he was going to do. As always, Dad never complained about coming to an end, just took it on the chin and just kept looking forward, never looked back. Things would work themselves out, that was always his way. I guess the other thing I did note down, His experience at the hydro also installed another recurring legacy in his life, a dislike for the greens. He mentioned the greens as always something that brought out a little bit more passion in our father. He was always, Dad was involved in a period of time of the hydro when lots of dams were being built, and I guess the issues around the Franklin Dam as well. So, yeah, any mention of the greens would liven up our dad. So I guess then it moves on to the phase that most people probably know now, as Dad the handyman. And that's something that he's pretty much stumbled into. It was a chance request from a family friend that mentioned a relative of theirs needing some lawns mowed. And this became the start of the next 25 years of Dad's life. The venture grew from mowing a few lawns around town to being an all-round handyman, and I would argue he was offering the best range of services on the northwest coast. Dad would have a go at anything, as we all know, and he was able to and willing to offer services. He was electrician, gardener, landscaper, builder, plumber, plasterer, tiler, roofer, concreter, bricklayer, and that's, just to name a few. And I would argue that this was the making of our father. He absolutely loved it. It was his true passion, and it was really his sweet spot. As we all us kids know, Dad loved a project. If any project really motivated Dad, he loved to solve a problem and he'd find enjoyment in designing a solution, which was the engineering coming out in him. The drawings and designs for any job he did were always to an engineering standard, and they were amazing to see at times. Being a handyman wasn't a job or a business to him, it was a lifestyle. It was a social exercise more than a commercial exercise. He made some money out of it, but he wasn't in it for the money, and it was pretty much a 7-day-a-week commitment by Dad with no limits on start times and finish times. He was pretty fluid with when it came to time, as we'll discuss a bit later. And he'd always say about how much work he had on, and all the work that people wanted him to do, and he couldn't understand why, but we all knew why. It was his low charge rate. When he started out, Dad was charging a whole $15 an hour, way below the going rate for anything at the time, and especially when you consider some of the trades work he was doing for people. Being the honest man he was, his view was that he was slower and took longer than others, so it's probably a fair rate. And he'd always say that he was charging cash in hand too, so the rate needs to be lower to be fair. And he had this thing about, and he didn't want to attract the attention of the tax office because he was always worried about the tax department. Because he always wanted to be fair and honest, so it was funny guy. And Dad was right. It did take him longer, but this is, as was mentioned earlier, the high standards he always insisted on. He was always a perfectionist, and if the work wasn't good enough for him, it definitely wasn't good enough for his clients. And he also enjoyed chatting with his customers, and he'd make sure that no one paid for that time either. He'd deduct those bits of hours or time, and I guess a lot of the time people were also feeding him, so that probably just encouraged him to stay longer at jobs than he should be as well. So Dad loved his clients. A lot of his clients were there from the start right through to the end. Mowing lawns was still a priority to Dad even during his illness. When he was diagnosed, we dared suggest as a family that maybe it was time to stop doing that and concentrate on his illness. But he didn't want to accept that. That was not an option for Dad. He wanted to keep going as long as he could because he didn't want to let any of his clients down. He'd always talk about how he had this old clientele that really relied on him, and that's his words, not mine. And I must say, gee, Dad, you're in your late 70s. How old are these people you're doing these jobs for? But he didn't want to worry anyone, and he just wanted to keep things as normal as possible for as long as possible. He wanted to go on, and he always said, the day he stops working, that'll be the end of him. And he says that's what kept him going, from the time he finished the hydro. It kept him fit, and it kept him happy, and he'd always have a smile on his face. It's probably fair to say his dedication to clients come at the expense to some of his own projects, because Dad would never say no to anybody. Dad's help or to do jobs was always a challenge, and even for family, as Karen will attest.
So I have a little story to tell. So basically, as Dad would say, you're my favourite daughter. For those who know, I'm his only daughter, hence why I'm the favourite. But Dad would say to me, "What would you like for your birthday?" And I said, "Well, I've got this stick vacuum, Dad. Can you put it in the laundry, so in the wall, so I can put it up to the charger and not have to plug it in at the power point?" He says, "Yeah, I can do that for you." So anyway, that was fine. Comes Christmas time. So this is 4 months later, sorry. "What would you like for Christmas?" "How about that stick vacuum in the laundry, Dad?" "Oh yeah, I've still got to do that, don't I?" So anyway, Christmas comes and goes. Next birthday, "What would you like for your birthday?" "How about that stick vacuum in the laundry, Dad?" He says, "Oh, I still haven't got round to that, have I?" "No, Dad." Anyway, Christmas comes again. "What would you like for Christmas?" Usual. "How about that stick vacuum?" Anyway, he says, "Yeah, I can do that for you." Anyway, next birthday again. "What would you like for your birthday?" "Stick vacuum." It's been 4 years, it's still not done. So still waiting, so if there's any electricians in the room, let me know. Got a job for you.
I guess we had plenty of time to reflect over the last few months with Dad, and I recall a discussion in the recent week. We talked about jobs at home and how he probably spent too much time doing other people's work and not doing enough of his own. And he said, look, ideally, if it wasn't for this blasted thing, that's what he referred to his cancer as, he would have liked to work for another 3 years, was his plan. He said, I could work for another 3 years and that could help, generate enough income to finish off these jobs that he wanted done at home. And like the deck that we've just been working on. I said to Dad, you would never have done that. You'd have just kept working for others, let's face it. He laughed and he didn't disagree. He did do some work at home. The house was something he never stopped working on, but was always done, project by project, and lots of them were started, but not all got finished. And it was never the priority, as Mum would always attest. Some of the highlights that he did over the years, he expanded his front driveway to accommodate all his trailers, cars, and seemingly endless supply of wheelie bins. If anyone's been to his house, you'd understand what I mean by that. He redesigned and spent a lot of effort doing up downstairs, because he always had a vision of all us kids coming home with the grandkids at once, so we all had somewhere to stay. But he never fully finished it, but it's good now. Everyone's using it to come see and be here. He had this long-held vision to build this back deck and enclosed area, which we were able to realise in the end. And he was happy and satisfied, even though he knew he wouldn't get the benefit of it. On a positive note, and to show just how long this project's been in Dad's vision, once it was all done, we were finally able to open up a box of an outdoor setting that Paul and Michelle gave him 23 years ago. So we were able to use that. And another little pet project that none of us agreed with, he wanted to build an outdoor toilet attached to his shed. And so we managed to get that built for him, but he never got to use it, but he was happy he got to see it. Working with Dad was always an adventure, or sometimes a challenge is probably a better word to describe it. His ability to misplace things, particularly tools, was legendary. He's the only man I know who could own 20 pencils and 20 tape measures, but you could never find one, even if he'd used it a minute earlier. It's just amazing. His organisation wasn't always the best. Dad would tell Shane and I, when we'd helping him do some projects, be over by 10 and help with the job. So Shane and I would always turn up at 10, and most of the time you get there and you'd be probably still having breakfast, or doing some other little job around the house, and then he'd spend the next 30 minutes trying to find the parts for the job that he'd bought the day before. And And then he'd realise he'd forgotten something, so then, he's got to shuffle off to go and get that, so then we'd be sitting around for another 30 minutes waiting for him to get the parts.
And then also with Dad, like he'd say, I'll come round and I'll do some work at your house. So you'd be like, okay, what time will you be there? I'll be there at 11. So 11 o'clock comes around, no Dad. 12 o'clock, no Dad. And then by 1 o'clock you ring him, where are you? I'm on my way. He rocks up at 2. So his timing, was really good.
He's usually late too because he'd say, I just thought I'd go and mow that person's lawn, or I just put another coat of paint on before I come over, and it just took a little bit longer than I thought. And the amount of times he said that was amazing. He was always a giver, Dad, had a great sense of community service, and which is amazing for someone who was so time poor. He always made sure he found time to get back to the community and prided himself on being a long-term member of the Burnie Lions Club and in later years the Probus Club, and he took great joy from being involved. He was never satisfied with just being a member and always put his hand up to take on committee roles or secretarial roles, president roles. Always made himself available for fundraisers and cooked many a sausage in the Lions Club van over the years. Went to all the wood shops and used to drag us along to those as well. Come at a bit of a cost at home because anyone who went to his house during that period of time, he'd never been able to sit and have a meal at his kitchen table because that was his office and was always covered in paperwork, and he's always doing something at the last minute and never really had time to clean up. I guess the community service is also a great social outlet for Dad, and he made a lot of really good friends and comradeship over the years, and it was really good for him. Cars, as Ken mentioned, Dad loved cars. He loved driving cars, and especially his beloved Alpha. In his early years he wanted to be a mechanic, as this was his first passion. It was his father that sort of ended up steering him away from that and more towards engineering, and he never regretted it, but his love of working on cars never dulled. He was always obsessed with Fiats, and I can remember him buying the first Fiat 132 to replace our long-held and beloved white Kingswood that we had. This was an obsession that went on for many years with many different makes and models of Fiats coming in and out of our household. The garage was always filled with Fiats in various stages of production. I can remember, he'd always call on us because he'd need someone to come and help bleed the brakes or hold something while he was doing something under the bonnet. He bought us all, each child, a Fiat. He did it up himself. I think that's, again, part of his love of a project. There's 4 kids, 4 projects. I could do up a car for each of them. So he did them all up, and we all learned to drive in one, and then we ultimately got to own one of each of them. And Karen and I got lovely matching army green Fiat 128s, which were pretty special. It sort of reminisce about, I guess, Ken touched on a few, he must have done a number of mainland trips in his day with his mates where they had many misadventures and breakdowns and car reliability issues across the countryside. He wasn't a sports lover as such, but motor racing, and particularly Bathurst, was probably his one exception. That was the one day each year he'd take one day out to indulge himself and spend the day watching Bathurst. And even in his mature years, as we probably refer to them at, he'd still fancy out testing a car.
So I have a little story about that as well. So Dad and I were off to Hobart, and because my car had broken down in Hobart and we had to go and pick it up. So Dad says, I'll take you down. So, he's driving and in his favourite car, the Alpha, and he says, we might save some time and we'll drive through the lakes. So little do I know. I'm like, yeah, okay, let's save a bit of time, we'll go through the lakes. Little did I know it was going to be a racetrack. And I tell you, I thought I was sitting in the car with Peter Brock, because that's what it felt like, and I've never held on for dear life.
You should talk.
Another memory, I guess, just recently that probably summed up our father was in the recent state election. Dad always took having a say in an election very seriously and wanted to make sure that he kept up his lifelong fight against the Greens. At the time, Dad was still at home. He was pretty unwell. He could move, but it was a struggle. But he still wanted to vote. And he said, "Oh, I've got to vote today, Adrian." I said, No, Dad. It was, probably remember, it was a really bad weather day, raining, blowing a gale. I said, "No, Dad, you're not well enough. Don't worry about it." And he said, "Oh, we'll get fined. And I said, "That's fine, under the circumstances, though." All day he just kept saying, "So when are we going to vote? When are we going to vote?" I said, "No, Dad, don't worry about voting. Don't worry about voting. It's fine. We'll be right." No, we've got to vote. He said, "We'll just go down to the council chambers because it's not far. We just walk in." I said, No, Dad, just don't worry. And anyway, he said, "What time's voting close?" I said, "Oh, it's open till 6. And he goes, "Well, I'll just go and get changed now and we'll go down." Just like, "Okay, Dad, we'll go and vote." And sure enough, as much as it hurt him and pained him, he walked in there and he had his say, and he was proud to be able to do that, and just, like I say, summed up the man. People have a favourite restaurant, holiday spot, and a place that brings them great joy. For our dad, that place was Bunnings. He spent an awful lot of time in Bunnings store, and as a family, we also toyed with the idea of using the Bunnings theme as one of his songs today, because that connection. But it's also no chance that if you noticed his coffin is draped in the colours of the flowers are in the Bunnings red and green. So it's as a tribute to our dad's obsession with Bunnings store. Back in the past, visits to Bunnings were the cornerstone of his holiday planning when he went to see Scott and Paul. This is before Tasmania had Bunnings stores. He'd always make sure there was plenty of spare room in the ute if they drove, or leave room in his suitcase if they flew, because he'd always make multiple trips to these magical places that he talks so highly about, and he could pick up the latest tool or latest gadget that he could bring home and use 2 or 3 times a year. To say, he'd come back and he'd talk for ages about the size of these wonderful places and the amount of stuff that they had, and he couldn't wait till Tasmania got one. And it's interesting that by chance, or maybe by chance, but funnily enough, once Tasmania did get Bunnings, his mainland trips decreased significantly, so might have been a connection there. I guess there's lots of memories that we could talk about. Camping was another one that was always a big part of Dad's life. He loved his camping trips and caravanning trips to Bridport with the family, and catching up with the rest of his family, because that was always a tradition in the Smith family. As I say, he was the centrepin of the family. He'd do all the packing, he'd do all the organising, load up a caravan with 4 kids, 3 kayaks and bikes and everything else, and he used to do it all himself. Fish and chip Thursday is another little silly memory of it. Every second Thursday was payday. He'd ring us all up to see what we wanted for our special treat every Thursday. It was just a small thing, but we'd all be sitting there waiting for the phone call. Dad loved food, it's fair to say. Especially ice cream and licorice, all sorts. They were lifelong favourites of Dad's. And he was a funny man. He wasn't outwardly funny or thing, but he just always had a really good, quirky sense of humour. And he always loved every Christmas too. He'd have this silly, ongoing joke for our whole lives, where he'd wrap up a little bag of lollies for each of us. And for some reason, I used to always get, just as an example, a little pack of Mars bars. That was just my thing. And then for a few years in a row, I was getting a little pack of licorice. And I waited about 2 years, and I went to Dad and said, "Dad, you do remember it's Scott that likes licorice, it's not me." "Oh, you do?" So it's just Dad thinking he's being funny, but yeah. I guess another little thing, we talk about Bunnings, and he was obsessed with his Azito tools, and Azito Tools should have paid Dad some money as a brand ambassador, because no matter how glowingly you talk about the tools and or just tools in general, I guess, but he loved life. He loved everything. But I guess for Dad, we say thanks for the guidance and the wisdom you gave so freely over the years. You impacted and shaped our lives in so many ways. His kindness, humility, generosity and values will live on in all of us. Though he's no longer with us, his legacy is still part of who we are and will carry forward in the next generation that we have here with us today. So thank you, Dad. We love you.
Thank you, Ken, Adrian and Karen. What a wonderful man your father and brother was. To be so selfless and driven, but not by a clock, is really quite remarkable. That time he just made it his own. Thank you so much for sharing. Was there anybody else that wanted to come forward to say a few words for Brian?
My name is David Stevens. I'm the current president of the Burnie Men's Probus Club. Brian was a highly esteemed member of our group, a past president and past secretary. He's a man who gave 110% to everything he did. And there's a good contingent of his friends here from Probus today to pay our respects to Brian and support the family. As has been said, he was a quiet, humble man whose actions spoke much more than his words. And it's been said, and I'll repeat it, that he was a man of great kindness, decency, generosity, and he'll be missed greatly by those who knew him well. In the last fortnight I spoke to Brian twice. I was in Melbourne and he rang out of the blue one Saturday. He said, "How are you, mate?" And I said, "Well, more to the point, how are you?" And he said, "Oh, look, I'm not going too well. I mightn't be at the next Probus meeting," which of course he now won't be. But he said, "I've had a good life and my family has been brilliant. I want to pass that on to you guys." And then I rang him the day before he passed. And you could tell this is probably it, and he was in hospital. And I said, "What about visitors from a few mates from Probus?" And he said, "Yeah, look, I think I can have 2 at a time." And of course, as we know, he passed the next day. But in closing, I'll just share one story that reflects Brian's kindness. I consider myself a poor man's Brian. I do a bit of handyman work now in retirement, but without his skills. I said, "Brian, I've got a little job to do for somebody, put a gate up. I haven't done one of these before." So he ordered the parts and he said, "I'll come and help you." And I was going to pay him. Anyway, I told the story of this person who'd gone through a lot of trauma. And by the time we got there, we did the job, we gave him lunch, the food, and Brian said, "I can't take any money for this. This person needs it more than I do." And that was Brian. I said, "Well, I owe you 4 hours. I never got to pay that 4 hours back, but I did offer it a few times." So on behalf of everybody from Probus, we'll miss you, mate. Your legacy will live on in our group too and our values. And rest in peace. Thank you.
Wonderful tribute to a fabulous man. So we now have the privilege of viewing some photographs that depict aspects of Brian's life that we've heard about this morning. Brian himself chose the songs. John Lennon's beautiful song, "Give Peace a Chance," and Freddie Mercury singing "The Great Pretender," which Brian definitely wasn't. Please enjoy.
1, 2, 3, 4. Everybody talking about bagging. a crown. Pretend that pretend that you're still
Memories to cherish now. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please bow your head and join me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. A life well lived is a precious gift of hope and strength and grace from someone who has made our world a brighter, better place. It's filled with moments sweet and sad, with smiles and sometimes tears, with friendships formed and good times shared, and laughter through the years. A life well lived is a legacy of joy and pride and pleasure, a living, lasting memory our grateful hearts will treasure. Brian certainly was a life well lived, and there is just so much to treasure. As we celebrate his life, we can take satisfaction that Brian has been and still is and always will be a part of our life. His influence endures in the unending consequences flowing from his character and his actions. Brian left this world on Thursday, the 31st of July, after a short stay in hospital. The family would like to sincerely thank the staff of the oncology unit at the Northwest Regional Hospital for their care and support of Brian over his journey. During his life, Brian made a difference, and he will continue to do so as long as each of you remember him in your hearts and carry the lessons of his life with you. You now are the representatives and the ambassadors of his legacy. Hard work, honesty, and being the best you can be are the lessons that he has left you with. He gave you wonderful gifts of kindness, graciousness, strength, acceptance, and love. He showed you how to live with a positive and strong heart, how to be thankful for everything you had, how to laugh often, and how to have fun. Cherish it always. For as he would say, I'd like the memory of me to be a happy one. I'd like to leave an afterglow of smiles when life is done. I'd like to leave an echo whispering softly down the ways of happy times and laughing times and bright and sunny days. I'd like the tears of those who grieve to dry before the sun and keep only happy memories that I'll leave for you when my life is done. So now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to say farewell and send Brian on his final journey. Would you all please stand? The time of parting is the most difficult. But before we do so, let's be thankful and grateful for Brian's life, remembering the intangibles, the impact of his life on yours. You may bring to mind his can-do attitude, his sense of humour, his work ethic, his passion and positivity, and the way he lived his life. Remember the significant moments and the fun times you had with him, the times you supported him and he supported you. You will remember Brian's life by the memories he leaves behind. But most of all, remember him with love as long as you live. Those of us who feel deeply will grieve deeply. No philosophy or religion ever taught to us can prevent this wholly natural reaction from the human heart. We come into this world with nothing and we leave with nothing, but the memories we leave behind with our family and friends are a mark of our life's success. Nothing can detract from the joy and friendship that you shared with Brian. Nothing can possibly affect the happiness and depth of experience that he himself knew. So, Brian, go forth from this world knowing that you are loved beyond measure, that you will be missed more than words can say, that you will be remembered and cherished, and that love will never end. We will hold you close within us, and there you will remain to be with us throughout the years until we meet again. And as we now hold your memory in our hearts and send you on your final journey, may you forever rest in peace with the certain knowledge that our love goes with you. And so it is with love and gratitude that we now commit all our fond memories to be locked away in our hearts as we gently yield your body to be cremated. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Grateful for the life that has been lived and for all that life has meant to us, may we resolve that while we live, we will strive with all our might to make our living of real worth. Brian, we celebrate you, we honour you, but most of all we pay tribute to that consistent love and loyalty that you always shared so willingly with your family, your clients, your colleagues and your friends. Your courage and strength will never be forgotten. And so, with love, we shall now leave you in peace, and with respect, we bid you a fond farewell.
Dames en heren, live in concert, the tribute to the Cats Band.